Modern Horizons 2 has brought us a bunch of epic heroes from Magic the Gathering's past, but today we're getting villainous. We're going to be taking a look at one of the most evil planeswalkers the multiverse has ever seen.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, today we are here for the joyous experience that combines two of my favorite things. Talking about Magic stories from the history of the game and looking at brand new Magic cards and seeing those characters brought to life. I find it to be a very gratifying experience. Now, we have delved in to a bunch of heroics, but we haven't really plumbed the depths of depravity. So that's what we're here today to do. And to guide us through that, we have Geyadrone Dihada, one of the most vicious and evil planeswalkers around, okay? So this isn't a character that's really well known from the cards, clearly. There's actually only really one card that mentions her in the flavor text before Modern Horizons 2 even existed, right? So Geyadrone has actually been a background character, and part of that is because the majority of what we know about Dihada comes from old Magic comic books, and the storylines and things like that got discontinued, so we really never got to see it come to fruition. So it's really neat to see an old, compelling character that genuinely had influence on a number of different well-known characters. It's nice to see them finally get a card. So let us dive into what the card is, and then I will tell you some of the history of Dihada, all right? So Geyadrone Dihada is 1 red, 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 generic mana for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. She has protection from permanents with corruption counters on them, which is an interesting concept, and clearly she's going to have abilities that generate corruption counters. So you have the first ability, which is +1. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Put a corruption counter on up to 1 other target creature or planeswalker. So that's pretty sweet. Right off the bat, you can increase her loyalty, you gain life, your opponent loses life, and you can pick 1 planeswalker or creature in play that she will actually be completely safe from. She won't be able to be targeted or attacked by that particular creature and or planeswalker, right? Then you've got the -3 ability. Gain control of target creature or planeswalker until end of turn, untap it, and put a corruption counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. So this is a really funky concept in terms of she has red mana in her casting cost. Gaining control of a creature for a turn, giving it haste, untapping it, and being able to use it is a very red ability, right? But adding on the corruption counter totally adds in the black vibe to it too, right? Like, I like the way that the abilities we're going to see all really do feel like they represent the different colors of her casting cost, which always feels good. I like the fact that she can gain control of a creature, and while she's gaining control of it, she ends up corrupting it. Because you'll see, she is a very manipulative individual, and she definitely ends up corrupting a number of different people, all right? And then her -7 ability is gain control of each permanent with a corruption counter on it. And I like that because it feels like the end result of a master plan coming together. And Dihada is one of those master planners, schemers, making things come together the way that she wants to, manipulating people into doing things where they don't even realize that they're serving her goals. Like, this is a cool character. So like I said, the abilities specifically do tie into the colors. The first ability that revolves around losing life of your opponent and you gaining life, that is a 100% black ability. The gaining control of a creature until end of turn, giving it haste, is a red ability. And gaining permanent control of the corrupted permanents is a blue ability. But they all feel like they have a touch of black in them, giving her, like, it makes her feel like the main core of her essence is black mana, and I definitely dig that vibe. And look at the artwork. She is genuinely an actual demon, if you're not aware of it, because she has this humanoid looking form mostly, but then look down in the corner. Oh, you got them tentacles going on, and there's a dragon wheeling in the background. The sky is all dark and stormy, and you have leafless branches reaching in like little claws from either side, while she stands there confidently with this crazy, like, vibrant red cloak. The red from this cloak stands out so much, and I guess actually it matches part of her dress too. So her dress and her cloak have this red that really stand out against the dull, deadened tones of the background and also of her skin. Look at her skin. It almost looks like a Dead Sea creature, right? It's got a very gross pallor to it. Not very nice whatsoever. And you can see that from her hands, necrotic energy is just pouring like water out of her palms. That is pretty intense. It's a nice little touch that I didn't immediately notice. So, Dihada is responsible for corrupting a number of individuals, and in some cases, we have depictions of it happening. So, for example, Dakin Blackblade was corrupted by Dihada. Dihada realized that Dakin essentially had a Planeswalker spark and had the capability to become a Planeswalker. And so she came to him and manipulated him. She said, I can teach you to become a Planeswalker, but to do so, I require you to do something for me. So basically the task was that Dakin needed to craft the Black Blade for her. Now, the Black Blade was created in a very vicious scenario where, if you know anything about blacksmithing, right, they pound on the metal where they're working on it, they heat it up, but then they need to cool it down, right? And how it worked with this blade when it was being created, every time the blade needed to be cooled down, Dakin would jam the blade into a slave's body, ending their life and cooling the blade. And it took him 10 years to create the finalized Black Blade using the magics that Dihada had taught him, right? And promptly, once he finished the Black Blade, Dihada turned around, stole the Black Blade from him, drove it into his shadow, which stole both his shadow and his soul at the same time, which is just absolutely amazing. And I love the artwork here where you can see Dihada, she's off in the corner in the background while Dakin is forging the absolutely epic Black Blade. And Dakin looks amazing here too. And I like the fact that this card encapsulates the concept in a great number of ways, right? It's called Profane Tutor. So Dihada was Dakin's profane tutor, right? Having him do genuinely awful things in a quest for power. And the fact that it took Dakin a long time to create this blade is reflected in the concept of this being a suspend spell. You can't do it automatically, right? You have to wait a certain amount of time. Now, obviously, 2 turns isn't 10 years, but it still gives that same kind of flavor, which I absolutely adore. It's pretty amazing. Basically, Dihada ends up manipulating Dakin in a number of ways, right? Not only does she steal the Black Blade from him and then go on to use it for other purposes, but then, like I covered in the video yesterday with Karth the Lion, she essentially ends up destroying the entirety of Karth's city, okay? So then Karth sets out for vengeance. He ends up in jail with a monk, but that monk is actually Dihada pretending to be imprisoned. And she basically goes, here, I'm going to give you an amulet. You can use this to summon up Dakin Blackblade, and then you can use Dakin in your quest to destroy Dihada. So here's Dihada pretending to be a crazy monk, but instead is totally just, I'm the person you actually want to destroy, and here I am manipulating you into summoning this Planeswalker, because by Karth using the amulet to summon Dakin, it actually bound Dakin to Dihada, which obviously made Dakin pretty angry. But then Dakin and Karth end up becoming friends. If you want to know a little bit more about that, go watch the Karth the Lion video from yesterday. But either way, she's got a situation where she manipulates Dakin, and she uses Elder Dragons even as pawns, right? Because what happens is eventually Dakin is able to reclaim the Black Blade through the help of Karth, but not really actually. It's just Dihada letting the Black Blade fall back into Dakin's hand so that Dakin can then be used to slay an Elder Dragon. And she harnesses the energy from that Elder Dragon being slain to basically become more powerful, right? Originally, she summoned up 2 Elder Dragons, not really caring which one Dakin destroyed. She just wanted the power that was located inside the Elder Dragon. So pretty wild stuff that she's engaged with, right? Now, in the meantime, after she originally stole the Black Blade, it was made for her, but whatever. She betrayed Dakin. That part is undeniable, right? So, what did she do with the Black Blade? Well, she actually took it and found a force of nature that was living out in a forest, okay? And I don't know how many of you guys know Force of Nature, but this was my big bad boy back in the day. When I played Green when I started, I had one of these guys, and I loved him because he was an absolute tank. When you got him rolling, it was like, hey, Trample, what are you going to do? So the Force of Nature, I mean, admittedly, by today's standards, if you're not familiar, the G's in the text box down there, those stand for green mana symbols. So you had to pay 4 green every turn, or this thing would pummel you for 8 damage to the face. So the Force of Nature is a pretty vicious individual, but it is just that, a force of nature. It exists inside the forest, wandering around being a big old muscly angry dude. So Dihada finds one of these force of natures, completely corrupts the forest that it lives in into a swamp, right? And by doing that, she also manages to corrupt the force of nature. And that causes the creation of Solkanar the Swamp King. So Solkanar the Swamp King was originally a mono-green force of nature that resided in a regular forest, but was corrupted into this essentially almost demonic beast, right? Now he's a swamp lord. Look at that club that he's got there. That's made out of jagged bones and horns from all kinds of different beasts, and you can see how scarred up he is. He's still giant and muscly like a force of nature, but now he's got a far more demonic aspect to him, right? And now look at the colors he is. Black, red, blue, just like Dihada. Dihada was able to corrupt him to that level. It's pretty cool how the corruption concept in her counters actually totally fit in with the concept of what's going on. So, Solkanar the Swamp King is a servant of Dihada. She used Solkanar to build her stronghold, and her stronghold is, oh, where is it? There it is. Sorry, got things in the wrong order there. Is the Unholy Citadel. So this citadel is actually built entirely out of like the bones and other parts of her enemies. Okay, look at how intense it is, man. You've got a gigantic like skull face with horns coming down at the top of this weird little elongated neck. The main body of the citadel has like a demonic face with the eyes and a mouth open that you have to enter in through the mouth. There's a little balcony up there in the mouth. You've got these fires that are burning black noxious smoke out into the air. There are all these skulls on sticks in front of it. Now, you can't tell from the picture, but this citadel moved around, okay? Imagine the horrifying noise of a building made entirely out of the remains of Dihada's enemies. Actually, enemies probably isn't even the right term. Victims. This building was made out of the bones and other parts of her victims. And it moves around on clacking skeletal legs, which is absolutely intense. If you think about the sound, like just the clack, 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 like you would hear it coming, and the shifting and the rattling, and parts of bones and stuff would probably be falling off here or there. Like, it's absolutely intense as a concept. Admittedly, the ability of this land is terrible. You're looking at a land that doesn't tap for mana. All it does is give your black legends band with other legends. So it is a subset ability of banding. And banding is a sweet ability, but band with others is a terrible ability. It's really, really, really not very good at all. One day, we'll probably go in depth talking about banding, why it was abandoned as a mechanic, how it's actually a great mechanic, but it's genuinely confusing because it's the only mechanic in Magic history that is asymmetrical in the way that it works on attack and defense. So you literally have to know 2 different rule sets to use it for attacking and defense. But either way, the ability on this land is terrible. The flavor behind the land is amazing. So the next card we have to talk about is Flay Essence. And this is 2 black and 1 for a sorcery that says, Exile target creature or planeswalker. You gain life equal to the number of counters on it. Now that's fun because she puts corruption counters on things, right? So just through the process of corrupting a creature, if you were then to flay its essence and destroy it, you'd actually gain life from it. Like she draws the life force out of those she corrupts, which is really, really intense. And in all honesty, 3 mana for a spell that exiles a creature or planeswalker with all upside isn't too shabby. I mean, 2 mana is better for creature destruction these days, let's be real, but overall, not too shabby a card. And the flavor text says, your argument as to why I should spare you lacked substance. Now, so do you. You can tell she's vicious, like just the way she's taught. You know what? Your argument for why I should spare you, it was no good, so die. That's just intense. And the artwork shows this woman just being unmade, right? You can see it almost looks like flowing red hair, but that's really like her blood and life essence just being ripped out of her body. And you can see her arms, like they almost look like they're breaking apart like mannequin arms. It's pretty intense artwork, pretty flavorful. It's almost got this like serene vibe to it if it wasn't so vicious and awful what was being done here. Now, I mentioned before that Geyadrone was mentioned on a random obscure flavor text, and that was really the only place you could find mention of her. And that card is actually, surprisingly, not one of her colors. It's Lure. Isn't that strange? Lure is 2 green and 1 for an enchantment. You put it on a creature. All creatures that are able to block enchanted creature do so. And the flavor text says, when setting a snare, success depends not on the quality of the trap, but the quality of the bait. Usually you use living bait. So, I mean, that makes sense with the concept of lure because you really are using one of your creatures as bait. And if you look at the golden apple that's shown there, you can see there's a skull in the reflection. So it does actually have the feel of Dihada, right? Like she lured Dakin in with like promises of power or whatever, but underneath she had a foul design. And that's the same concept here. I have something you desire, but it will lead to your doom. That's got Dihada written all over it. So the other version we have is some different artwork with her in a different pose, looking pretty impressive with her arms stretched back. I gotta say, she's a pretty intimidating looking character. And I think it's pretty neat that they keep bringing back these old characters from Magic's history. I definitely love getting to talk about the flavor behind them and see how they stack up. And Dihada definitely mechanically feels just like the character should. So this is a home run for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, my friends. Great news! My Hatcher channel has just been accepted into the YouTube Partner Program. I'm going to leave a link to the Chandelar playthrough that I'm doing over there. If you enjoy hanging out in my live streams, I also do live streams over there. So feel free to come on by, and I'll also leave a link to my most recent lore video over on my lore channel. So if you want to hear about Asmore, another character from Magic the Gathering history, come on over and have a listen. There's a lot of awesome lore over there. So thanks to my patrons, thanks to everybody else for swinging on by, and I will see you all next time.